This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Very good morning to you all from Djuma Private Game Reserve. We are sitting here at Impala Plains. There are no impala. Doesn't really make Impala Plains if there are no impala, but still, the skies are looking good. I see signs of the sun popping up behind us, so what a joyous morning. My name is Lauren and I do have Impo on camera today, and we're heading west. We're going to check to see if Miss Tswalu, the Duchess of the West, is still on her kill. Didn't look like there was too much meat left last night, but still, they can stay on carcasses until the very, very end. As you know, it's difficult for a human to determine how much meat is left. So that's our plan for this morning. If she's not there, we may head south and check on the Nkumas. I know that Tristan tried to do that yesterday, but he had signal issues. I imagine they'll still be there. A buffalo is large. But they were all hungry little monkeys, so who knows. Anyway, this safari is live and interactive, so please do talk to us. Send in your questions using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, if that's your platform, or at FC on the YouTube chat, or you can head over to the WildEarth website, and as long as you've registered, you can submit your questions there. Info, shall we bumble? That is a yes. I want to get to the west before it gets too busy with any sort of vehicle traffic. Tswalu is on Triple M. She's on a boundary line, which gets a little bit hairy sometimes at boundary lines, shall we say. Now, kids, if you guys are watching, please do talk to me. Talk to me. Send in your comments and your questions. If you have a joke, send that in too. But you send it in via email, and the email address is kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Boundary lines are sort of, she is on the Djuma side, yes, but boundary lines are what we call sort of no man's land. It doesn't really belong to any property. So there's not much control in terms of vehicle traffic. She's also killed right next to the gate where people come into the house. So there's heavy vehicle traffic and it can't be avoided. So it can get quite busy in sightings like that. So that's why I want to just get there and see what the scenario is. And Tima was there yesterday. Sutu, who I first ID'd, is on Tima. And then Kaika was there as well. So the three of them were there. And it's just so lovely to catch up with them all. This is how we're going to see the Djuma clan nowadays, just purely by being at sightings. They're not Zen bound, so we're either going to bump into them on the road or we're going to see them at sightings. So either way, I'm not complaining if it's all we're getting. So we're going to keep bumbling west, but let's take a look at the weather.
Well, the weather is very cloudy, but with the sun rising, it brings quite a lot of promise. It looks like the sun might burn the clouds off, and we might have those typical blue African skies later on today. So I'm very excited for that. I'm also very excited to explore Djuma. This is my very first live drive here. My name is Eric, and behind camera is Gert. And like I say, this is my first drive here. I have been on Ngala for the last year or so, so I hope I'm not as rusty as I think I might be. But I'm very, very excited to explore this reserve. And Gert and I have decided to just go on a really nice explorative drive today. We're going to just be checking several different water holes throughout the Djuma property. So we're going to start our drive heading up towards Buffelshoek Dam, and we just saw this opportunity to see the sunrise. It's the first time in the last 2 days that we've actually seen the sun, so it's really nice just to take it in. And I don't think we're the only ones that celebrate the sun. It just seems like every animal's got a bit of spring in their step. There's a bit more energy around. The birds just seem to call slightly louder after a couple of days of cloudiness. The animals seem to be moving around a bit more. So it seems that everyone tends to enjoy the sun, and especially that it just warms it up after a couple of chilly, wet days. It's a bit early on in the season for us to be receiving rain. Usually you'd say from November to December you'd be getting these big rainstorms coming in the Lowveld. So this little light drizzle in the very early parts of October is quite an exciting prospect, and it just turns everything green very early on in the season. It makes everything lush and healthy, and I'm sure most of the animals will be enjoying the very, very fresh green grass that's starting to come through. It's just such a beautiful time of year because we've got this brown grass still, and the majority of the leaves still are bare, but we're just getting these pockets of really, really bright green sprouts that are coming through, and it's just adding so much color into the reserve. So it really, after a dry, kind of dull-ish in terms of color, it makes it pop and really, really makes the bush look beautiful. So like I'm sure everyone is saying, they're very happy to see the sun. Let's hope that it's burning off. The majority of the cloud cover here, it does look very high and quite thin. So as soon as we start getting that nice, typical African heat, I'm sure most of the clouds will disappear. I am notoriously bad at predicting weather though, so I'm not going to say too much about it. And I think let's carry on driving. We've enjoyed the sunrise, we've been listening to the bird calls, and nothing really in terms of animals. I mean, it's always nice at this early time of day to just spend a few moments to switch off and listen for anything. Alarm calls, lions might be calling and marking their territory, leopard you might hear too, so it's always nice just to spend those few moments, and we'll probably do that a number of times more before it gets too hot, just listening, trying to give us any clues of what might be moving around through the bush. So for the last few days I've been on drive with Tristan. It was wonderful to sit at the back and watch him, and I've hopefully learned a little bit from him. So hopefully the leopard luck has been passed on to me. We'll see. So whilst I bumble on towards Buffelshoek Dam, I think let's send you across to JP to say good morning.
Good morning and welcome to Bushwalk. We're out and about on Leopard Koppie at the moment, and we're just waiting for it to become a little bit lighter before we start our walk. We had a very brief little bit of sunrise this morning. It already popped behind the clouds. It's nice and cloudy over here and overcast, and the conditions is nice and cool, which is perfect for a bushwalk. There's also no wind, which makes it so much easier for us to approach animals. So my name is JP LaRue, and behind the camera we've got Darby. So our plan for this morning is to start from here and then work the drainage line between the two dams and see if there's any animals making their way towards water. One of the calls that we did hear out there a little bit earlier was that of a hippo. We're not quite sure where he is. Somewhere between 2 points of the two different dams, and I hope that he's going to make his way back to Leopard Dam and go and start taking up occupancy there again. It will be great to see him again. It's most likely the same bull that we had a few months ago on Pridelands between Leopard as well as Ndlovu Dam. So at this time of the year, we just started experiencing our first rains, and things tend to be slightly quiet after a long winter. But we see that as it had started raining, A lot of small insects are becoming alive again. A number of birds have becoming actually more chirpy as they started advertising their territories and trying to attract mates. So hopefully we'll start seeing more and more interesting things that are popping out. However, we also have a number of new viewers that are on show, and we are going to repeat a number of the things that we've been discussing over the last few weeks. If there's also any specific interests or questions that you have, you're more than welcome to ask those, and we'll see if we can answer them to the best of our knowledge. But let's get out there and see what we can go and find.
So I was mentioning just before we went across to JP, we've had some really good leopard luck in the last couple of days, and sitting at the back of the vehicle watching Tristan do his thing has been really cool. So we are 3 for 3 drives, 3 different leopards. I think the challenge is now to try and find my own leopard. So I think that's what that's the number one goal, I reckon, for the next couple of days. Always important, especially when you're at a junction, just to check on the road, see if you find any tracks of anything that you might want to follow. After a couple of days of rain, the grass was quite wet still, and so these cats, especially leopards, don't really like to get their paws too wet, and so they will spend quite a lot of time walking on these dry patches. So these roads are really good for that. Makes it a bit difficult. The rain sometimes almost creates a hard layer once it's wet, and a soft paw of a leopard or a lion sometimes does make it very hard for us to pick up. So you might see, especially when we get to a junction like this, I might just look back subtly, and that's Gert just directing me this morning, just making sure that we don't go too wayward and get lost. So I'm very grateful for him to be my GPS for the morning. I'm sure it won't take me too long to get my way around. So it's really looking promising. I can see huge big patches of and I'm hoping that it will remain like this for the next couple of days. So we're almost at Buffelshoek Dam. Let's hope that we can see something there.
Mr. Dulu is in fact here. And it really looks like she's on the last sort of remains of what used to be a tiger. Look at that full tummy. No one obviously came and stole it from her, which is good news, because sometimes on this part of the world, the West is very congested with leopards. Very congested. She's obviously managed to hold on to it. Someone else is here, right at the bottom of the tree. We do have Miss Sutu, who I'm so surprised, so lovely to see her. And this is June's older daughter. June obviously has a novella now as well. And she just looks so much older. And I obviously mis-ID'd her slightly yesterday, but the reason I can spot Sutu is she's very small. She's a very petite hyena. And you see these black bars running down her sort of hip bone at the back, around her rump. They're very black, and they're parallel. They almost look like someone's drawn them on. She's really obvious from that. So if you're ever trying to ID the hyena, if you get a look at the back, if she turns around, those two really thick black bars, then you know it's Sutu. She's a gorgeous hyena, and she's really thrived. And last night, as I mentioned, 3 of them were here, so it's definitely a busy spot for the hyenas to come and check. They don't always stay, they don't always wait around. clearly, for Sutu, it's a good one. And I mean, Sutu was born late December 2018. So if you think about it, she's coming up for 3 now. Almost 3, and her litter mate was Swana. But sadly, she didn't make it. She was also a lovely little hyena. I think Swana, don't even know if she made it to 1. Barry, every single one. Within hyenas, the females are larger, which is naturally quite unusual for mammals. And they really are larger. So it's tricky to see when you just see a hyena on the road. But when you see them next to the females, my goodness, they are a lot smaller. The females are far heavier in terms of Is it not quite what you're looking for, Sutu? Not overjoyed, are you? Good morning. Shudulu Ingwe is still in the same position on Bamba, WildEarth on lock, but space for 2 MOVA. Copy. It's very quiet. No other update than Shudulu. My goodness, that was quite a squeal. Oh, we're going for it. Now this is a stomach content. And really, obviously there's a skin, the stomach skin, but inside it's not really what Sutu's after. And you can see that. She's not really loving this, but she's also making the most of the situation. And this is what June did. We once had a sighting with June at the Shasha and Tlalamba fight. And she got the stomach contents, because that's not what the leopard wants either. And she opened it, shook it, to get all the inners out, all these sort of digested or partially digested organic matter inside. We want rid of that. We're not vegetarians. And just to eat the skin around it. And she ended up with all these stomach contents on her face. That's your mother, darling. Yes, she looked lovely, I must say. That was one of my favorite sightings to date. And Sutu's clearly doing the same thing. She keeps looking. I wonder what she's listening to. I can't see anything, but I wonder if there's another hyena in the area, but she keeps looking in the same direction. She can hear something that we can't for sure. I don't think she's enjoying it, but she's using the same technique as her mother. And she will end up swallowing some of partially digested matter. And that will provide carbs for her. Even though she doesn't want to, she will end up swallowing some, as with the leopards. And that will provide some carbs in terms of nutrition. Just the hyenas will always be around. And the leopards are more than used to this. And it's one of my sort of most favorite relationships out here, just watching leopards and hyenas interact. And it really depends. Sometimes the leopards don't bother, they come down, they just look at the hyena, maybe chase them and walk away. Sometimes they won't come down if there are many hyenas here. I don't think Shudulu would bother about Sutu here. Sutu will really bother with Shudulu. We had a sighting with Tlalamba. She had a kill in that huge Jacoberry and Gary cut line. And Swazi came. And Kalamba sort of stalked up on him and chased him, gave him a fright and chased him. And sometimes the leopards get scared when the hyenas chase them. It's sort of a push and pull relationship, and it depends a lot on dynamics. But essentially, they're not really scared of one another. Not really. I mean, Swazi got a fright that day, so he ran, but he didn't run far. He came back. It really depends. I mean, leopards are just used to hyenas being at their kill site. I mean, it's a norm. That's why they hoist. So it'll be interesting to see what Tswalu does here. Does she just go to sleep in the tree? Because there's really not much meat left there. Or does she come down and walk away? Will she walk west into Simbambili? Or will she walk east into Djuma? Hoping the latter, naturally. I'm not sure if you can hear her crunching because it's a little bit windy, but she's really crunching on whatever body part that is. It's more of a squelchy, crunchy sound, but it is windy today, so there's possibly not much chance of you all hearing it. I've also had sightings with Tingana sitting, and a hyena walks up to him and he doesn't even move. He doesn't even snarl, he just completely ignores the hyena. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here today. So we're going to sit here with the Duchess of the West.
Here we are. We are on an expedition. This is the expeditionary force. Behind me, we have seen Kalamba. We are very excited.
Being nominated to the top 5 and finally being here, for me it's an achievement. Tracks, I believe I did quite well, and the walk.
And sometimes you often drag their feet forward.
The storytelling as well. So yeah, I think that's where I see my strongest point.
And then, that was the opportunity of the scraping.
I say the bedding and the call, definitely for me, it was quite a big challenge. Guiding is not all about the award that we have had, but sharing the experience and continue to do what we have passion and love.
Hello, Mama. Just checking us out, everybody. There's no aggression here. Very relaxed. A herd of elephants moving around your car like that is truly, truly magical.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
We've got our first mammal for the morning, and surprise, surprise, it's Impala. It's quite a nice sighting, and I think it's because the sun is just breaking through the clouds, so we're starting to get that beautiful morning golden light. You can see it on the backs of those impalas, so making them stand out quite a lot. And as we look at the group, see how closely packed they are. So they're all very, very, very tight in a very close-knit group. And I don't know if you'll be able to see, but if you look at the grass around those impala, you might hear in my mic one or two times the wind is now all of a sudden to pick up quite, and it's blowing quite strong. So these impalas have just grouped together to try and keep themselves protected. If they get themselves isolated and separated from the group, there's potential to be a big problem, and they are a lot more vulnerable. So, I mean, I mentioned how much I love this time of year, and I mean, the color changes is one, but these impala ewes have been carrying lambs for the last 6 or 7 months, and it feels like any minute now there should be a couple that should drop. I mean, it's still early on in the season. I guess November, December is typically when they drop their lambs more regularly, but it's not uncommon for us to see 1 or 2 very early lambs dropping through. And if you look at them, I mean, you can just see they've got these big bulges on their tummies. They're looking healthy, looking very pregnant. And so I'm sure they're on the cusp of giving birth. That will be a really nice challenge to see if we can spot the first lamb of the season. Oh, there's a little raptor. It's gone already. But it flew straight across the herd and it's taking advantage of this wind. It looks like it's having a lot of fun soaring around here. It's not really good conditions for raptors because it is so windy, but these smaller ones get away with it because they don't necessarily rely on the thermal lift from the heat. So they typically can fly in these conditions, and they'll be looking for these small little birds that are starting to get their day started. And I wonder if he maybe just came through here looking for oxpeckers on this herd of impala. You can see, I mean, these impalas aren't exactly warm, and I'm sure, like I say, they'll be happy to see the sun. You can just see some of them have stuck up their coats, and they're slightly darker color. There's now 4 of them actually looking to the left, now only 3. I'm trying to see if there is anything there. There's that one in particular, the one on the right, who hasn't. Okay, now she just has, commentator's curse. But she was the one that was staring in that direction the longest. And so she must have seen something, some sort of movement. And I think it's just these conditions that might be making her a little bit nervous. And it seems like everything's relaxed. So no predator around here. I think let us continue. We've still got to get to Buffelshoek Dam. Let's see what that leopard's up to.
Tswalu has now finished the duiker. I don't think there's anything remaining there. Sutu got lucky. But Sutu's nervous and keeps looking in a southwest direction. I don't know what she can hear, but she's nervous and she keeps positioning herself so that she's facing that direction and not leaving her rear end exposed in that direction. So I don't know if she hears something else approaching. And now Tswalu is obviously grooming. She had a little bit of food on her face. Messy eater. So she's got the blood off her face already, and she's now really grooming her paws. What are you gonna do now, girl? You're gonna come down. Oh, okay. It's a bit abrupt. I think we should reposition a little bit because we can't really see Sutu here and we can't really see Shudulu. Sophia, you are 8 years old and you're asking a question that everybody wants to know, and that is, of course, do leopards fall out of trees? Apparently they can, naturally, but it's not common. They're very, very good in trees. They learn from an extremely young age how to be sort of experts in the trees, if you like. So they can fall out. Apparently it has happened, but it's very, very rare. Here's Sutu, and let's take a look at Sutu and her breakfast. You see, she keeps positioning herself so that her rear end is very much towards the gate, and she wants a clear view of what's going on in the south. Interesting. She's actually a really short hyena. She's short and stubby, a bit like me. Anyway, Sophia, that's a great question, and they can, but they generally don't. Got really sharp claws that they can hold onto, really powerful shoulder blades that keep them, that pull them up. But naturally, if a leopard loses his balance, well, it's gonna fall. Sutu, you're really short. Short legs. I remember Sutu as a cub. I remember Swana too. It was when Petty was around. Plonk. It's the dynamics from when Corky was matriarch. But you see Sutu a lot with June. I mean, the mother and daughter bond within hyenas is strong. Vehicles will come, but there's something else bothering Sutu. It might just be sound. It might just be the sounds of lions or whatnot, and she's just obviously nervous. But look at that full tummy. She got more than enough of that kill. That's why they stay. They get the scraps. They get bones. Leopard very rarely doesn't drop anything. It always drops something because it's hanging in a tree, so it can drop anything at any moment. And naturally, hyenas win. It's a win-win situation. Sit here. I think Shudu has decided to rest, see what else plays out, and we're going to send you guys over to JP on Bushwalk.
Welcome back on Bushwalk. At the moment we are looking at these beautiful flowers from a Nobile combretum. That's also known as a shaving brush bush. So unlike the majority of all other combretum area, this one is a creeper, and there's two specific species that are creepers in this area. The other is known as Combretum microphyllum, or flame creeper, which is probably one of my favorite of all the combretum species. There's a few things that are quite interesting that we've noticed over here at the moment, and that there's a number of different ants over here, and most likely what they are busy doing is looking after tiny little insects, which is known as aphids. And in return, these little aphids will provide them with a nectar-like little drop of sustenance that they will feed on. So one of the things that I do find particularly interesting about the combretums is that they actually have the ability to communicate between different plants. When they are being exposed by browsers or fed on by browsers and disturbed, they will actually raise their tannin levels. And in response to that, they will start leaving a chemical trail into the air, and the other plants of the same species will then also push up their tannin levels, and that will force the animal that's feeding on them to move off elsewhere. Good morning, Phoenix, and welcome to the show. I'm 100% sure that most ants do have some form of role, most likely in pollination, if they do climb over it, as we find that there's a wide range of different insects that are responsible for pollination. I also find it particularly interesting that in certain areas that ants are also responsible for the distribution of seeds, especially in those species which is granivorous or grain-eating or seed-eating ant species, as ants can either be carnivorous or they can feed off on plant material. We're going to move off and go and see what else we can go and find. Let's see what the Djuma team is up to.
There's nothing quite like spending your morning, especially when it's a chilly morning, watching a leopard chilling in a tree. Especially this leopard. I haven't seen her in a long time. Gorgeous female leopard should do. It's very windy, but you can hear the times of the morning. The sun is up. She's listening. I'm just going to sit here for a moment or two and just listen with her. Really is the most perfect way to start the morning, I must say. Look at her just checking on Sutu. Just having a look. What is that hyena doing? I'd love to conduct a study on the sort of dynamics between leopards and hyenas here. I mean, when I finished my master's, I promised myself I wasn't going to go any further in academia. I'm more practical own person. But I would really love to be out here and sort of dive more into. I'm convinced that any species doesn't really need to recognize other species on an individual basis. It doesn't benefit them in any way. You need to recognize individuals of your own species. That's important. So for Sutu, for example, she needs to know her own clan members, who's in the clan, who's not. She'll need to know all the females, who's the matriarch, who's not, and have a really good understanding of the males, clan dynamics. She doesn't really need to understand, this is Shadulu. She's a little bit different from Tlalamba. She's older, and yes, Tandy is the oldest dominant. She doesn't need to know that sort of detail. But there's just some part of me that's convinced they do know who they're following. Now, I'm sure Sutu does not call Shadulu Shadulu, but you understand what I'm saying. There's some sort of recognition of definitely male and female leopard for sure. But also, look at Shadulu just eyeballing her. I just feel there's some sort of recognition on a chemical level, of course, not a visual level. I'd love to conduct some sort of study that would really identify that somehow. And look at the relationship a little bit more. Naturally, it's tough out here unless you've got sort of animals collared or they ping. GPS pings, it's difficult to always keep track of them, and the bush is going to get thick. And it's going to get thick fast before we know it. Shadulu is a leopardess that likes to be in trees. What I've noticed in my time here is naturally they all have different personalities, of course. And some leopards just spend more time in trees than others. I find the females spend more time in the trees than the males do out here. Could be different across the board, but here the females seem to enjoy their time chilling in trees more than the males. Tungana's not much of a tree guy, you know. Sutu has left the building. She is leaving. She now knows that there is nothing left for her. And Shadulu is watching, but I believe Eric has made it to his first water hole.
We have indeed found our way to Buffelshoek Dam, so I'm so glad that we aren't lost yet. Time will tell there. I'm sure it will happen once or twice. And I mean, there's not too much going on, and I think it's just the time of the morning, the conditions very windy, but there are a couple of giraffe that are on the other side of the dam wall, and they are currently feeding. They were until a spur fowl started chittering and making an alarm call, and they both shot up and started looking in the direction that the call is coming. So you can see both of them are focused on that point, just trying to see what that bird is shouting at. And we'll see. I mean, we can use these giraffe. They've got exceptional eyesight being so high up, and if they continue looking down in that area with that particular gaze, not moving, and then they've seen something that they're not really comfortable with. So that one on the left still staring, one on the right has resumed feeding. So it looks like it's probably nothing. And that one on the left is probably just being a bit more cautious and scanning around, just making sure. As giraffe, they're both mature females, and so not necessarily concerned about too much. I mean, they don't really have a lot of predators. I mean, I guess it would just be a big pride of lions that they'll be really, really concerned about, but they will watch almost any predator. So cheetah, they'll stare at. Leopards, they'll make sure they know where the leopard's going. They'll even focus in on hyenas who are moving past the area. Yeah, so the only thing that they'll really be concerned about is lions. And in this area, it's quite tricky for them, because if a lion were to chase them, it's very uneven. So there's lots of steep gradients, there's drainage lines. And if these lions are successful in chasing them through this area, being very high up and having a high center of gravity, one stumble can be catastrophic for these giraffe. That one really hasn't averted its gaze, but that second one is completely relaxed. It's actually moving away now. I'm trying to scan through the bushes and just look for any type of movement, but I can't see anything. Yeah, now she's changed her mind and sticking with her friend. Again, a quick little look back. Interesting. We'll investigate it once she moves off. I don't want to disturb her in case it is something. We don't want to chase her and make her lose focus. So once she moves off, we might move forward and just have a quick little scan around there just to see what she might be looking at. And like I say, because that other one has moved off, I don't think it is anything of particular interest to us, but she's probably just being extra cautious. So when after it is a very peaceful morning. You know, when I first saw that sunrise, I got very excited, and like I said, I'm notoriously bad at guessing and predicting weather. I should have probably been a weatherman, and it's not really burning off, and this wind is making it a bit more chilly, so I actually thought it was going to be quite a nice warm morning. It might just be the back end of the front, so it could be like this for today, and then maybe tomorrow it clears and we get those big blue skies that I absolutely love. It is, coming to a waterhole is always so peaceful. It's just so nice to see a big water body and to spend time here and wait for animals to come past. You know, as soon as it starts warming up, but that's when we typically see a lot more of these general game species coming through. It tends to be when predators are less active, so there's less chance of them bumping into trouble around a waterhole. But right throughout the day, you'll get lots of bird species coming through here. And it's such an exciting time of year. And like I say, it's one of my favorites, and you'll probably hear me saying it quite a lot over the next couple of days. You know, it's not only the change in season or the young animals that we start to see, but all of these migratory birds who spent the winter north of southern Africa, so either just past the equator in Africa, or some of them even come from the very top of Europe. And they're starting to make their way down to the tip of Africa to enjoy the summer. And we have started to see a couple of the species, and from this point on, you know, we'll start to see more and more and more. So the Warburg Eagles seem to have arrived already. I've seen some yellow-billed kites. And then around waterholes like this, we can expect to see waders. So, things like sandpipers, green shanks. And there's always a chance of us seeing something really, really rare. Last season, because there was so much water around pretty much the whole country, there was unbelievable birds that were seen. Birds that have only really been seen a few times in recorded history. So it would be awesome to see that. I remember seeing at Ngala, I remember seeing a frigate bird in January, which is exceptional. Yeah, so the possibilities are endless out here at this time of year.
If you are a WildEarth explorer, then we are excited to announce that there is another unique prize for you to win. Sign up to be an explorer before the 16th of October 2021, and you and a friend could be heading off to an eco-training ranger experience. This 2-night opportunity offers a living and learning adventure where you will combine seeing incredible nature with gaining knowledge on how animals live in the wild. You will approach dangerous game on foot, learn how to track, do some 4x4 driving, and have an exclusive opportunity to join the WildEarth team behind the scenes on the live show. After each action-packed day, you will relax around the campfire and listen to the nighttime choir of animal sounds before you drift off to sleep. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
Civilized to just found some black rhino tracks. A mother with a calf. The calf tracks are so small. They're somewhere here in this area, but it's too dense to walk this way. So we're going to walk around where it's not so dense. Let's hope we get lucky.
And sometimes you often drag their feet forward and deposit the scent mark, which is that what they use to patrol their territory.
We managed to get a glimpse of the black rhino, but for safety reasons, of course, we held back and we walked a different way, but it was such a fantastic experience. We didn't just focus on the big things, because it's not all about the big things. We focused on army ants and lots of dung. Civilized did an incredible job, but it's up to the judges now.
Something very, very interesting. I didn't plan this, but this is a scene, rarely seen. This is what we call a journey of giraffe. So beautiful.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
Oh, Shadulu, she was sitting so perfect. What? And Tima was here. And Tima came around for a bit. I think that's what Sutu was looking at, because that's the direction she came from. Sutu's left, gone into Simbambili, and Tima left because there's a realization that the kill is gone, the carcass is gone. And Ntima went into Djuma. It's so nice to see her. And Tima's got smaller. 100% smaller. Lost a little bit of body weight, I feel. Oh, Shadulu. It's a bit of a solid landing there. Ouchie. I'm just going to see where she's going to go. If she does cross west, we're not going to follow, I'm afraid. Let me just turn around the cards before we lose her completely. Did you get the photo? No. We got it, I think so, but oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna follow her, but I'll catch up with you guys later. This vehicle's been waiting and waiting and waiting for that photo of her jumping down, and I don't think they got it. Okay, Shadulu. This block, there she is. This block can be quite hairy. But let's just see where she goes. She's still on Djuma right now. She may just go up a termite mound. Or knowing Shadulu, Tristan and I will say she's a very busy leopard. My goodness, that to-do list is full. Diary's packed and she doesn't really stop. She can be quite a difficult leopard to follow when she wants to be. That would be me. I would be busy. I would be a busy leopard. She's scent marking that tree. She just scent marked that marula. Clearly, I think that was her name. Yes, Tswalu's been mating very recently, not on Djuma. She's been mating with TP, Tortoise Pan, the new male in town that I have yet to meet. I'm waiting and waiting and waiting till he comes so I can meet him. But TP seems to be filling Hook's slice of territory on Djuma, on the Djuma side. Naturally, him and Mulwati will be clashing territorial boundary lines, but TP's very relaxed. He's a chill dude, very habituated, and I have yet to meet him. He has been around Djuma, but I've just not had that chance, and Tswalu's been mating quite furiously, actually, with him. She lost her 2 recent litters. It's very sad. But they're brought back into estrus very quickly. Biologically, they will come back into estrus very, very quickly. And that means they can start mating again and recover for their loss. Station Tswalu female leopard is now mobile south on Triple M. I'll try and follow her for a little bit. I think she's going to dart over, and once she darts over, we will not follow. We can still traverse Zimbabwe, it's just not worth it, signal-wise. I don't get sick of it anymore. Oh, sorry, girl. I know you should be doing that in private. Tswalu, you go. Finished. Just literally just dropped it and started walking. I was just about to try and get on the west, but I think she's going to cross your way. No. We are live. I'm just going to follow her for a bit. But it's nice to see you. She's now sort of veered over to the right-hand side of the road, if that makes sense. And that's Zimbabwe. Going to be Arathusa. Zimbabwe is a really narrow property. Yeah, off she goes. Look at that. And this mound that she's sort of moving towards is a mound that I've found Tavangumi on multiple times. Okay, she's still on Triple M. We can work with that. I like seeing a leopard on a boundary line. Big, wide, open space. Look, scent mark, and that's what happens. That's really much the life of a leopard. Kill, hoist. Stay in that tree for a couple of days. Sleep, eat, watch the hyenas. Then come down, have a lot of some stretches, and then go on territorial patrol because you've been out of action for a few days on your kill. So she obviously went to the bathroom, which is natural for all of us after eating a big meal. And now it's time to go on a bit of a patrol, and she's patrolling all the way down Triple M. Which is fascinating. Triple M is our western boundary, and it stands for Mala Mala Main Access Road because it takes you all the way down to Mala Mala. But naturally, that is such a mouthful that we just say Triple M, M. Predators, right? They all kill each other's offspring. It could be hyenas, it could be lions. Yeah, she's gone in now. Bye, Shadulu. It was so lovely and delightful to see you. Please come back to Djuma again soon. But yes, one of the biggest factors to cub mortality rate is other leopards. Male leopards, just like lions, will kill cubs that they don't believe to be theirs if they haven't mated with that female. As sad as it sounds, I mean, lions get a terrible... Oh, hello. Lions get a terrible reputation for it. It's called infanticide, but leopards also do that. Female leopards kill other cubs. Kara's litter mate, Shadulu's litter, one of her offspring was killed by a female leopard called Moya. They were obviously having a massive clash, and the Moya saw that she had cubs and killed one. So that's her gone in now. I mean, lots of things could happen, but I would say the most common reason would be other predators, and not just hyenas. If a lion came across a den site, absolutely the lion would kill the leopard cubs. So small and altricial and weak. There could be genetic reasons, and of course there could be nutritional reasons. The den could get flooded, lots of things, but really it's mostly other predators that kill the cubs. Okay, she's really teasing me here, but at the moment she's still on Triple N, so we're going to keep following her. I'm going to send you across.
Welcome back to Rusty. We left Buffalo's Hook Dam and we didn't see what the giraffe was looking at, and we checked and briefly, and then we decided to move on. We're now on one of the boundaries, just looking for any tracks or signs of anything crossing into Djuma, and we haven't seen anything yet, but there is an interesting track that I've just seen that I'd like to show you, and it is a critter that crossed through here in the middle of the night. Is this one fine, Gerard? Yeah. So this is the track in question that we're looking at, and you can see it's quite fresh. I mean, there's the toenails that dug in there and makes it look good. And what makes it interesting is, for a mammal, it's only got 3 toes. So there's one toe here, one toe there, and one toe there, with very sharp, not sharp, but blunt and very robust nails. So this is actually a track from an aardvark that was coming through this area. And that would have probably been right in the middle of the night. And it was walking, so it crossed the road here, and it was walking into Djuma. And you can just see, if we go a little bit further along here in the direction that the track was going, is a nice big mound. So this aardvark would have come through this area looking for exactly that, these big active termite mounds and ant heaps that it would be using to dig in and get to ants and termites to feed on. So it's quite a rare animal. We do see tracks surprisingly quite often, but you hardly ever see the animal, particularly because it is a nocturnal species and it only comes out in the middle of the night when we tend to be sleeping. You do on the odd occasion see them in the early evening when it's weather like this, actually, but it is exceptionally rare. So I think from here Gert is going to try and navigate me down to Twin Dams. We decided we're going to go on a waterhole mission today and just check it out and see if there is anything. It does seem like the wind is dying down ever so slightly, so that's a little bit, and we'll just have to wait and see. So it's always a nice thing to do, just to check the boundaries to see if there's anything that might have crossed into, just like that aardvark. I mean, not worth following up because he's in the middle of a burrow sleeping. So as we make our way down towards Twin Dams, let's go across to private.
Good morning and welcome back to Bushwalk. While Eric is hopping between dam to dam, we also at a dam at the moment. And what we are looking at is a large number of buffalo tracks. These buffalo must have come through here early this morning or late last night. They came here to come and have a drink as well as to come and wallow, as you can see that the mud has been delved up. And the reason why they do wallow is purely to cool their bodies down and to get a sufficient amount of mud on their body. Also to assist with once that mud is drying, that the ticks and other parasites that's on the coat will then peel off with the mud. And here we can see as we're walking, how pieces of mud has actually dropped down towards the ground. So other than just using the track to follow the animal, we can also age when an animal was in the area by simply looking at when mud drops have been falling and in the direction of where the mud drops are falling. We can also look for mud smears on the side of branches, as it often also helps us to actually find the animal. Some of the other field signs that we can look out for when we are looking at buffalo is also the dung, which helps us to determine if it is fresh or not fresh when we are following up on that animal. Simply, if there's a large amount of moisture in it and it's still warm and not cold, we know that we are on track. So one of the other field signs that we have for buffalo is right over here is a rubbing post that has been created by this buffalo over a period of time. It's not just only buffalo that's been using this specific tree as a rubbing post. We also can see that elephant was using it at some point as well, as that they can reach quite high. Here we can see where the mud has been deposited by the buffalo. Quite often, if we do look a little bit closer, we actually might find those coarse grey little hairs inside there. And we also often see ticks that's been coated inside there or encrusted inside the mud. By looking at it and feeling it's already started drying off, and it seems that these animals have been here several hours ago. What we'll be doing is we're going to take a short walk around this area and see if we can find the general direction of which the tracks is leading into. Hopefully we get lucky and we actually might find our buffaloes. Well, let's go and see what Eric is up to.
We've left our leopardess now, and I'm just bumbling down the western boundary. It's actually a very ugly road. It's not aesthetically pleasing at all. Power lines, lots of vehicles, bumpy, but it's good in terms of animal productivity. It's a productive area, lots of movement, lots of crossing over. Tracks everywhere naturally. Hyenas move so far and so wide. They just walk, keep walking until they get that scent of what they're looking for. You can follow hyenas and end up at a leopard kill or even a lion kill. That's happened in the past year. We've spotted a hyena that looks like it's on the scent of something. It looks like it's on the trail of something. And you follow them and you end up at a site where a leopard's made a kill. It's fabulous. But you've got to understand their behavior. They're not always on the trail of something. Sometimes they can just be like, they walk like this when they're just walking. But their behavior changes when they get wind of whatever it is they're looking for. A carcass, blood, a kill. And then they start to follow. And it's when they're doing that behavior that you want to follow them naturally. So naturally, I'm going to keep looking at the ground. This is a very easy road to track on and all around, and hopefully I can get lucky again for the morning.
So we're still taking a nice little bumble along towards Twin Dams, taking it really nice and easily this morning, and just wanting to make sure that I don't miss any tracks. So there have been quite a few nocturnal species, so the aardvark tracks, which are really awesome, and then we've actually got some white-tailed mongoose tracks, it looks like, but we're just about to cut off the boundary and start heading towards Twin Dams itself, and if Gert and I have got our navigation correct, we should be popping straight out at Twin Dams somewhere along this road. So let's hope we've got it right. Darcy's asked which leopard I'd really like to see, and honestly, I'll be happy with any leopard, Darcy. I think one who has always stood out and I've always heard about is Thandi. She's a leopard who I've always heard people talking about, and I believe that she might be denning, so that would be really cool if we get to see her in a brand new litter. We spent a bit of time with Reeps yesterday. He was a really cool leopard. He looked really nice. I was saying to Tristan, he's got such a big bushy tail. It almost reminded me of a snow leopard's tail. And spending time with young male leopards is probably my favorite thing to do, or favorite type of leopard to watch, because they're just so boisterous and curious, and they're just investigating and doing really cool things. So yeah, any young male leopard I'll be happy to take. And then I guess if we get the chance to see any really big male, I'm not sure if there is any huge males that we might get to see. I guess you never really know, but that would be really cool. I'm just quite happy to almost put names to faces. So sitting at Ngala, we always heard about the WildEarth presenters here in Djuma being with these specific leopards. It'd be nice just to see what they look like and who they are, and meet them face to face. I guess any leopard that I get to find myself, I'll be very happy with. You reckon straight, Gert? I think straight is our answer, yeah. We're taking a bit of a gamble now, but I'm sure we are on the right road. I've got my map with me, so I hope we don't get too lost and end up somewhere in the southern part of the Sabi sands. It's actually just a quick little stop, and what's really cool about this road is that we're on a crest and we look down into a valley and another crest. So we'll quickly spend some time scanning to see if we can see any animals in the distance. Let's quickly go across to JP with some birds.
Welcome back on Bushwalk. We just found a southern black flycatcher that made a kill on a moth. Unfortunately, we didn't see the original where it caught it, but what we did notice is where it was flying off of it. One of the things that you will normally see is once birds have made a kill on an insect or has food with them, they will normally consume it straight away and not carry it away with them. As that it would be a risk that other predators and other birds might steal it from them. The only time that birds normally will carry food away is when there's a nest close by. And that's one of the sure telltale signs to look out for nesting birds, or for the nest if you would like to photograph nesting birds at the nest. This is also one of the birds that are quite often confused for fork-tailed drongos, but if you look closer, you'll actually notice that it's got a dark eye, not a red eye like all the drongo species have. And it's also got a fairly round, notched little tail, unlike the deeply forked tail of a fork-tailed drongo. One of the things that you should be looking out for at the moment with fork-tailed drongos is that they will start developing a double fork in their tail as well, which is typical of this time when they are going into their breeding plumage. You can see it's been joined by one of the glossy starlings who tried to actually steal the food, and he's now moved away from the starling. It at least seems as if the starling managed to find a few little scraps there. Good morning, Caleb, and welcome to the show. Which insects do have the most vital role in the ecosystem? Actually, all of them has got an incredibly important role within the ecosystem. And their roles vary between being predators that regulate the numbers of other insects in the environment. We also find that a number of them will also be responsible for creating disease, and in that way setting up balance within ecosystems. We also find that a number of them are very important in terms of recycling nutrients and minerals back, such as termites. And then lastly, we also find that there's a number of them that has an incredibly important role as pollinators, but also providing food to a number of different insect-eating animals and birds. But if I can think of an environment like this, probably termites as one of the most important ones, as they will recycle a large amount of dead plant material back into the system. And those nutrients then become available to plants and is eventually transferred from plants to herbivores and to the carnivores. Well, we're going to move off and go and see what else we can go and find. Let's go and see what Lauren is up to.
Miss Shidulu is long gone into Simbambili. That's okay. But it was wonderful sighting with her. Now, when leopards are on kills like that, it gives you the chance to really just sit with them and enjoy them, because when they're on a bit of a mission, as you all know, it's very difficult. So we're going to try and get back in the Nkuhuma lineup. Obviously, Rusty, the other car, just doesn't seem to work there, which is rather unfortunate. But at least if one of us can get there and see those cubbies again. My goodness, they're fierce, so we watched them swat each other across the head. It's my food. For tiny little cubs, they're fierce. And only 3 adult lionesses took down that buffalo. It's remarkable. Anyway, it should be quite a good sighting. We will need to get into the lineup when we get a little bit closer. And hopefully we can catch up with the Nkuhumas. It's nice to see the Nkuhumas again. It feels so familiar for me. The Talamatis are relatively new to WildEarth. I mean, they've always been here, but to WildEarth, in terms of our traverse and their territory, they're relatively new to being around the Djuma area. There's always the Nkuhumas. I remember during my training, Jamie Patterson said, "This is Nkuhuma land." And I wrote that down in my notes. This is Nkuhuma land. It's amazing, and that's what I've enjoyed staying a long time. You get to see everything, you can relate back before. And then you can see how it changes over time.
So Gert has very politely told me that I've made my very first mistake with the Leopards of Djuma, and I do apologize to all the WildEarth diehard fans. It's apparently not Thandi who's denning, it's her daughter Tlalamba. So I got that wrong. Please forgive me. It's my first couple of days here, and wrapping my head around the Leopards of Djuma is going to take some time. But a couple of days ago, there was, when I was here, it was just the dark-maned Vokamea who was on a zebra carcass, and you can see here, this is basically the only thing that's left from a 250, 300 kilogram animal, is literally just a couple of tail hairs. Everything else, apart from some stomach content, which is just around the corner, you might not be able to see it, everything else is completely gone. It's amazing how quickly the bush takes care of itself and just cleans up. So those lions fed on probably close to 80% of the carcass, and then as soon as they lost interest, they moved off. Vultures would have come down here to swoop and pick away at the very last bits of meat, and then the ones that come up to do the major part of the cleaning is the hyenas. So there's absolutely nothing left, and that's only a couple of days. So we're still on track to try and head towards that waterhole. We are heading straight down this road, and then I'm hoping we'll get to Twin Dams. It's actually so cool to come into a property that you are unfamiliar with, because it just puts you out of that comfort zone, and it makes you learn, and I guess in a way grow as an individual. Stepping out of that comfort zone is always something that's quite challenging and daunting to do, but it is so rewarding in the greater scheme of things. It is very thick in here. Perfect spot for a leopard to be moving around, and so I'm just slowly checking up this drainage. Elizabeth, my favorite big five. It's so tough, eh? I mean, I really love the dynamics of Pride of Lions. So when there's big males around and there's cubs of different ages and they're playful, and the communication between the females and how they protect their family. So that aspect of it is really quite something, and I always love trying to work it out, and just following lions is always something quite incredible. And then just the striking beauty of a leopard gets me almost every single time I see it. So it's a very long-winded answer, but I think there's aspects of each of the big five that I prefer over others. So it's a tough question, and I don't know if I can give you a solid one-word answer.
Welcome back on Bushwalk. We just found a group of plain zebras, and yesterday we were discussing virtual zebra, which was a name that was applied to the species. But over the last few years, the subspecies that we have in southern Africa has been referred to as plain zebra, while that subspecies which we have found now in East Africa, which has been geographically isolated from our population, has become known as the virtual zebra. We also just briefly mentioned who Virtual was. He was an explorer and naturalist that came to South Africa in 1810. He was also responsible for describing the white rhino. we're just going to sneak up and see if we can get a better view on our zebras and see what they're up to. I just always find it amazing how that black and white coloration that they have allows to break up the shape so perfectly when they move through this winter vegetation, making it so tricky to actually spot them. At one point, I think one of them might have actually spotted us. And their eyesight is incredibly good, and it's quite hard to fool zebras when you approach them. I'm just going to make myself as small as possible if they don't see me. It looks like if they're going to come down to the edge of the water to come and have a drink. Let's watch and see what they get up to. So one of the things that we notice quite often at this time of the year is that a lot of animals will actually start losing their body condition because of poor feeding and poor nutrition out here. But these guys are still in an incredibly good condition. And if you look closer and you look at their manes are actually in an upright position, which means that their fat reserves haven't started dropping, and therefore they're in a very good condition, because if the fat reserve drops, the mane will start flopping to the side. So there's a number of reasons why they have this beautiful black and white coats. And one of them is to break up their shape, but it's also there to make it more tricky to actually single out a specific individual when they are pursued by predators. And one of the things that you will see with zebras if they are pursued by predators is that they will all bunch up together. And quite often, the one that's second last will always try and kick the other in the face to try and separate it from the group, rather that the focus of the predator is on that individual than on the rest of the group. And quite often when predators do chase, it's the sick and the old or weak individuals that fall to the back. Well, let's watch our zebras a little bit longer and see what they get up to.
We're in the center of the reserve. It's a much more open area, so a completely different experience. It's also in the afternoon, so just a little bit hot, shall we say. We're following some lion tracks, and then we found the scat of a lion cub. So we didn't see the lions, but we decided to leave the area. It was getting a bit too dense and a bit too thick. So we've come all the way down to the water hole to have a little break, and then we're going to keep walking and see what else we can find. And TJ himself actually reminded us at the start of the walk that when you're on the vehicle, it's all about observing. But when you're on a walk, it's all about immersing yourself in nature, being part of the ecosystem. And that's exactly what happened today.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth.
So this Ngala bull's now moving away from us. Not the best of visuals. I think we'll continue on going and make our way towards Twin Dams. There's this drainage line, like I mentioned. We've got the tracks of this male leopard, who I don't think are particularly fresh. but we might as well just give it a crack for a little bit. And this is what I was saying a bit earlier on this morning. So when the roads get slightly damp like this, and then the sun comes out and dries them, it turns the road into quite a hard layer. Yeah, okay, cool. So you're still on the road here. And if I see a very fresh, nice or clear track, I'll stop and we can see if we can show you. And for the time being, I'm just going to keep going until it happens. Okay. Yeah, still on the road, still on the road. Yeah. So something that I think guides tend to make the mistake is looking at a track and making the call how fresh it is in an instant. So they'll look at it as from last night or from early this morning. I don't think you can really correctly age the track down to the minute that the animal was walking past, but you can look at things like the conditions. So we know that it was raining, it's on top of the rain, so that was at least from last night. There's quite a few different factors that we need to consider before we make the call on how fresh a track is. But I don't think the track's on the road. I might just stop and look around here quickly. So let's send you across to JP.
Welcome back on Bushwalk. While Eric is seeing if he can find his leopard, we're busy watching a grey heron that is hunting and is looking for fish as well as frogs, which he can potentially catch on the edge of the water. He's also incredibly patient normally when he is hunting, and what you'll notice is that they will often stop and stand and wait for fish to get into striking distance. This is a typical behavior of a larger heron species, as the smaller egrets and herons tend to be more proactive when it comes to hunting. So a little bit earlier, we had a group of zebras that came to visit us at the waterhole for a drink. We were just also busy discussing different subspecies while we were actually trying to get a better view of them. So when we mentioned that the subspecies that we do have in East Africa, which is referred to now as a birchall zebra, there's a few ways that you can quickly separate these two subspecies from one another. And this subspecies that we have in Southern Africa, the plain zebra, has got a faint black line on the white compared to the birchall zebra from East Africa, which has no faint black line on the white. We refer to that as a gridiron pattern. A few things that I also wanted to share a little bit earlier about the patterns on zebras is that each individual has got its own unique coat pattern, and we can use it to identify individuals when it comes to researching zebras, and so can zebras use those patterns to identify individuals within the group. It's also interesting that when a young is born, the female will actually go out of a group and then give birth and spend approximately 3 or 4 days with that young animal before it brings it back into the herd so that it can imprint in a coat pattern as well as in a scent. Otherwise, that zebra will start blindly following anything and anybody inside that group. It's also even said that in captivity, where they've been isolated from females at an early age, that they will also even imprint on humans. Well, let's go and see what our heron is up to. He's still slowly hanging around there in the hope of catching something. He's just been joined by a Blacksmith Lapwing as well. So for those of you that aren't familiar with Blacksmith Lapwings and have joined us maybe for the first time, they get their name from the sound that they produce, which is a typical ping, ping, ping call that almost sounds like steel that's being forged on an anvil. I also find them particularly interesting birds, as that they've got a number of adaptations and strategies that they will use to deal when it comes to dealing with predators that might be harassing them. And one of those is to actually have a broken wing display, which they will use to distract the predator away from eggs as well as the nest. One of the other interesting things that they have is an adaptation to protect themselves is tiny little spurs on the edge of a wing. And those will be used to hit opponents when they're fighting, for dominance as well as when they want to ward off a potential predator. Well, we're going to sit here a little bit longer. Let's go and see what Lauren is up to.
I am not up to very much at the moment, but I think I may have a surprise in store for you all. Are you going to make it through? Bear with me, everybody. Hi, how are you? Good. Yeah, nice to see you. Hi there. So I have to keep my radio up. Okay, yes, once you miss your slot, whew, you miss it, and you gotta join the lineup again. So I think I have a surprise in store for you all, but I don't want to say anything just yet because I love surprises, and I love surprising you all. And also, it might not go the way I planned. So I don't want to get any hopes up, but that's what we're working on right now, a bit of a surprise. So we are just going to sit at the dam here where we can be in radio comms. Just enjoy Chitwa Dam because it's fabulous, and listen to all the sounds. The fish eagles been calling, the hippos, the swallows are dancing above the surface of the water, the lapwings, Egyptian geese, the usual suspects. So hopefully I can pull this off today. Let us see. Sometimes you actually just have to sit. Sometimes you've actually just got to sit with your binos or your camera and just start at one end of the dam and just literally slowly pan all the way around the dam because it's so big. Well, my eyesight at least can't really see what's going on at the other side, and the Inkahumas are just at the other side there. The eastern side of the dam, they're lying there in the buffalo. There's just no visual from where we are right now. But they are there somewhere. Just listen to all those sounds. Bodhi is not a man-made dam. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep my ear on this radio at the same time.
Just want to see what she's going to do. It does look like, however, she's going to get the monton and carry a bit on west. Oh, no problem.
The dam wall is man-made where we're positioned right now, but naturally, due to weathering and erosion in the terrain, over time you will find areas that sort of sink in a depression, almost like a concave shape, and slowly that will fill with water. So it's not an actual man-made dam, but there definitely has been man-made additions and man-made things put in place to stop flooding and to protect the logs You can see, if Impo just shows you, the water's edge is quite close to the rooms. So it has been altered, shall we say, but it's not a man-made dam. These dams just naturally fill up with water. There's high areas in the reserve, there's low areas, and obviously water runs from high to low, and it eventually settles, and that's when you'll get dams like this. And that's why there's trees there. It's just a natural terrain. There's land underneath the water. Okay, I'm going to get back to my mission, and hopefully very soon we'll be successful.
We are successful in our mission, reaching twin dams. It only took us maybe about 4 or 5 wrong turns, but we managed to find ourselves here. And no luck with those male leopard tracks. So from the drainage line, it seems like he crossed and he could have continued through the block, facing the direction that we are heading. So we might end up just checking the next road on top of this hill, seeing if he might be here, but we are very close to our boundary, so there's a chance that he could have also just crossed over sometime throughout the night. And so the only mammal species we have here is this herd of impala, and it seems to be quite a nice large herd compared to the first herd of impala that we saw. And it seems to be quite a big mixed herd. There's some rams, there's some youngsters from last season, some very heavily pregnant females. And they haven't come down towards the waterhole to drink, and they're just sort of feeding parallel towards this drainage line. I think these impalas will understand that in that drainage line it's quite a risky business to be in, so they won't cross it unless they feel like it's really important to do so. So just walking parallel to it, where they've got these big open spaces where they can see some potential predators coming, is a lot safer for them. It's actually, I mean, from here compared to when we were at Buffelshoek Dam, it seems like it's much calmer. There's not as much wind as there was earlier on this morning. So we'll see. I'm not going to make any more predictions about the weather just in case I jinx it. So I won't say anything more about that. And I think from this point, once we are here, we might carry on moving up towards that road. Alright, yeah, I think it's time to move on. There's not too much activity around twin dams, so we'll go and check the road on our left-hand side of us. We'll drive up it, and then where those leopard tracks were heading, we think is somewhere up in this direction. So we might as well just try and see if we can follow those tracks for a bit. Larry, not that I'm aware of. I don't think there's ever been a male coalition been recorded, and it's just because it doesn't suit their lifestyle. You know, they are big enough to hunt for themselves, and they prefer to be solitary. And the only time you'll ever see leopards together is mothers with cubs, obviously, and then when males and females are mating. You might also, I mean, if there's a territorial battle between two of the same sex, if it's male and male or female and female, then you might see them together. But I don't think there's ever been a recording of male leopards grouping together as a coalition. The only animals or cats in Africa that do form coalitions will be males, not males, lions and cheetahs. They become very, very close with one another, and it works for them, it just doesn't work for leopards.
Sorry about that, everyone. Eric's disappeared already from his first day here. I don't think the surprise is going to work, I'm afraid, but that's okay. We're going to attempt to do something anyway. I just need to figure out how to get there. Sorry, I'm just watching this vehicle. Everybody's trying to assist one another to get in. He's going to try and help me here in just a moment. This way. Yeah, I know. Okay, thank you so much. I do know Chitwa, I promise. Thank you. The Chitwa radio over the Eastern Channel is, it's a lot faster. They use about 4 different languages at once: English, Afrikaans, Zulu, and Shangaan. It was Kuchava and Cubs, everybody. Kuchava and Cubs from Antoine are on Chitwa. But she's separated. She's now wandering on her own, which means we're not going to get to view them Antoine. But that's okay. We can try and see if we can get her. And if all else fails, we can go back to the Nkomas. It's funny, they're naughty on the Eastern Channel. They're very polite.
I think for now that's going to be the best.
When are we still live? I'm going to have to stop and talk to lots of vehicles to assist in the search for Kuchava. Kuchava is Tandi's daughter. Another litter. Tlalamba's half-sister, I guess. Mariev's half-sister. So we go on in. How did that other vehicle get through here? Watch out. Well, okay, got a branch to the face here. When we may need a little moment or two just to navigate around here. Gotta love off-roading. Okay, I'm finally going to focus on trying to find a leopard, and we are going to send you over to Eric.
So we've turned off the main boundary road and heading towards where we think that that male leopard's tracks might be heading towards. And we heard a bird calling up on this dead tree, and I mean, it was in clear view until it heard live, and then it just jumped down, and it's one of those smaller ones there, and it's got quite a distinctive call. It's a bird that sometimes is overlooked, and it makes like these 3 or 4 very short little chirps. So it goes, not the best imitation. I'm not the best bird call imitator at all, but it's a bird called a yellow-throated Petronia, or I think, as far as I understand, the name might have been changed to a yellow-throated bush sparrow. So it looks very, very similar to a southern grey-headed sparrow, but gone. All right, well, there are quite a lot of birds around this area. We might as well see if we can see some more. There's a big group of birds on the left-hand side of us that have also just flown away as soon as... I love birding. Okay, the worst birds, or the worst words that a birder hears is, oh, there it goes. Because it just seems as soon as you get your attention onto it, just take off. But it was actually a group of wattled starlings that were perched quite nicely. It doesn't look like there are any more birds around this area. I think they saw my binoculars and just decided to take off. So I think we'll continue on looking for those tracks of that male leopard. And maybe we'll pretend not to bird, and there might be a couple of birds that will show themselves again. So I'm just going to be driving really nice and slowly. I won't be going any faster than this. So white-maned crows, I think have adapted. They're such a clever species that they know where the best food sources are, and that tends to be around these urban areas. So like along the sides of big highways and on dump sites is where we tend to see quite a lot of crows. You do find them here. We get the pied crow from time to time, but as soon as you go out of the reserves and you drive along these highways where there's a potential for roadkill, you might see more of them. But they're not the most common species in the area. Well, we get white-necked ravens, pied crows. I think there's a Cape crow, and there's a rare one that is actually not native to Africa, called a house crow, that you only find in the Cape, but particularly around Cape Town. You might see on the road here there's a few different dung blobs. There's elephant dung, there's some old buffalo dung, but nothing particularly fresh. Well, I think the elephant dung is actually a bit fresher than I initially thought. I could smell it, so it might have been from sometime last night. So I think we're pretty much directly opposite to Twin Dams now. So I would imagine that if this leopard was walking in a straight line, it would have come out anywhere from this point. And it doesn't look like there's a particular game path or a game trail that he might have used, so he might have just cut across the block, and then it would be quite tricky to actually find him walking, because we've got literally maybe 2 or 3 individual tracks if he crosses the road. So that's why I'm just taking it very slowly. If he was walking along the road, he'll be walking for a few hundred meters, leaving quite a lot of different tracks that we might be able to see. But if he's crossing, it makes it a lot harder for us to spot the tracks. Seems like there are lots and lots of birds coming out. I mean, the sun is starting to shine. Well, yeah, but we're not birding, just in case they fly away. So we'll only stop if we happen to see one staring us in our face. Okay, so I'm going to keep on checking for these tracks. Let's see if we get lucky.
Sea Forest is a brand new experience on the WildEarth channel. Freedivers will explore the great African sea forest in Cape Town, while naturalists explain what we are seeing.
Like trees in a forest, these kelp provide food and shelter for many, many species.
Magical encounters with shy marine life, crustaceans, seals, and so much more will all bring a window of calm into an otherwise chaotic world.
We had a very exciting start to our morning this morning. Today, it's our guided sunrise safari with Mike, and we started by looking at the moon through a telescope, which was incredible. It's been a very different drive from all the other ones, very interactive.
Your pigeal gland is something the hoopoes have in common.
Hi. This morning's drive with Mike was thoroughly enjoyable. He really engaged us, but we also did some birding, and I managed to add a few new birds onto my list. Overall, every single experience with all the competitors has been really incredible, but it's up to the judges now.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is the call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops. Oh.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
It's a huge privilege to be in these incredible places with these amazing animals. I love filming lions. When they do get up and do something, it's always spectacular. When they are playing, are incredibly fun to watch, especially subalterns and cubs. I love being in the bush and working in these incredible places with these amazing animals. We want to bring it to you so that you can almost feel like you're right there and be able to experience it and enjoy it the way we are.
So that fork-tailed drongo had something in its mouth and then it took off. Let me move forward. It looked like it was quite an interesting one. You see them still here. There's 3 of them, so we've got a chance to at least show you one. And one of them in particular, I'll see if I can find it. It was the one that was feeding a moment ago, had like brown splotches all the way down its side. So that's the juvenile. It looks like it might be a family of drongos that are moving through this area. So at the moment they're just looking to feed on any of the insects that might be moving through this long grass. So they sit in one spot for a while and they just wait. They're watching and making sure that they'll be able to spot insects, whether it's moving through the grass or potentially even flying above them. And that's why they associate with these larger mammals. So I mentioned herd of buffalo. They also follow elephant herds and elephant bulls. So when they're walking and they flush the insects, those drongos are there to quickly swoop up and catch the insects when they are out in the open and exposed. Sure, Leslie. The differences between Djuma and Ngala, look, I mean, I've only just arrived at Djuma, so I don't know if I can give you a very accurate answer, but you know, I think for one, there's slightly more elevation here on Djuma, so they've got these rolling hills. You can get up onto the crests and scan a bit further, whereas Ngala tended to be quite a lot more flat and consistent. And then the big river of Ngala is missing here on Djuma, so you don't really have a dry riverbed like you would. I don't think very many properties in South Africa have river frontage like Ngala does. So that's also a very big difference. And then I guess the way that we drive around here, you know, at Ngala, because it's a bigger property, you have to cover ground quite a lot more. So you tend to drive, and you drive in second or third gear trying to get to a certain area, because you just have to cover distance to start looking for certain animals in different areas. Whereas here in Djuma, because it's a bit smaller, you tend to take the foot off the gas and you can just go on a nice leisurely bumble through the area, spending time with smaller animals like this and just enjoying and taking it in. So both are really nice, and both have things that work for them. It's just really nice to be able to see the different properties and spend time in them. So we're going to move on from these drongos and let's go and check up with Lauren.
Here. It's been a bit of a mission trying to find her. There in the center left of the frame you can just see a leopard. Far from ideal, but she's actually stalking in Ngala, and she's obviously got cubs not too far away. And it's always important that one vehicle sort of takes leads in a situation like that, and we don't interrupt. So if it's a choice between bad visuals and not interrupting a leopard, then of course we're going to go for that. But it's just so nice to see Kuchava. I had her during my last stint. It's one of my favorite leopardesses. I don't know what it is I like about her, but I really like her. And naturally she's part of the royal lineage here. She looks just like Tandy, in my opinion. She was born in 2014, so she's older now. I've actually been saying cubs. I think it's just cub. Apologies. I don't actually know. Don't even know the sex. If any of you know, help me out here. But if she successfully hunts right now, what that means is we may get a chance to see said cub. Chitwa is a property that we can traverse. So it's really, really good news for us. Do you still see her impose? That's still her. Incredible visuals, I know. But we're just gonna work with it. You can see the Nyalas. I mean, you should never ever interrupt a leopard hunting or any animal hunting, but especially a mother. Okay, James Richard, you said the last time you heard Kuchava actually had 2 cubs and genders unknown. Okay, so there are possibly 2. It leaves so much excitement for this afternoon, but thank you, James. I just wasn't sure. When I was here last, I saw her. It was very obvious she was lactating, and then she got found on Mkoro with a cub, and there's a really nice photo with 1 cub. The other cub is obviously just hiding, so that is really great news. Semba is Kuchava's son, lovingly called Batman. And he is just, I don't know, he's really not comfortable with vehicles. He's absolutely fine when he's in a tree, he's absolutely fine at a distance, but he's not comfortable with vehicles, and he is huge. Semba is a big boy. Tristan had a wonderful sighting with him and Maribs, and you can really see how big Semba is. Yeah, this is a really terrible visual. All the other cars are hanging back. She was sad on that, sadly. We're back. See some of the atmosphere. And I'm sorry about not going to the echo moments as I say that, but we can try that, don't worry. There's just a little bit we get to see over to Java's got a territory that, to be honest, it does extend far further south and goes into Cheetah Plains, goes into Porto, even Torchwood. I saw her when she was heavily pregnant, spending time in Torchwood, but sometimes it's just a little bit too far east for us. So, I'm going to sit here a little bit longer.
Alrighty, so we have decided to give up on those leopard tracks. We haven't seen where they've come out, so he could have changed direction. He might have even crossed the road and we just weren't sharp enough to pick them up. So he has eluded us for now. And we're going to continue on driving. I think we're just going to take a nice slow bumble. Like I said a bit earlier on, the nice thing about Djuma is that you just take it nice and easy. I'm in first gear, basically just idling along here and just seeing what we see. So, you know, anything interesting that catches my eye, we'll stop at and have a look. Yeah, so our third dam, thank you Gat, is saying that Treehouse Dam is actually just around the corner, which is right over here. This is a dam that Tristan took me past yesterday. So it's not my first time seeing it, but we might as well quickly pop our heads in here and spend some time here. It's that time of morning where it hasn't warmed up by much, but it has warmed up. It's getting later on, so these animals might be happier to spend some time moving towards a waterhole like this. So I'm going to just get onto the dam wall and then we'll focus in the water. There's actually, you see at the edge of the waterhole here, a really beautiful bird. There's two of them in fact, and it looks like they're coming down to drink. Sure, very striking colors. It's a bird that you actually mostly see in the air. They're called red-breasted swallows. See, one's just taken off. That other one, you see what it's doing? I mean, it's not drinking. Its beak is in the mud. And it's actually collecting mud that it will use to make a nest. So both of these red-breasted swallows would be a pair, and there it goes. So it's taken off now. Hey, and there's a hippo. He was under the water when we were here first, and now he's just all of a sudden popped up. Oh, so these red-breasted swallows are coming to build nests, and they're collecting mud, and when it's wet it obviously is nice and sticky, so they create these beautiful cup and bowl nests that they use. I think this hippo is not too happy to be in the wind, so he's just coming up for a breath and then taking a deep breath and then just going back down where he can remain relatively warm. So I think it's a good opportunity for us to just sit and spend some time at this waterhole, see what we might be able to find from here. This hippo, I don't know what it is about it, but it looks like it's feeling very sorry for itself. It's literally just picking up. There you go, watch, it'll take a deep breath and then I think it might just drop straight back down. Literally just its ears sticking out. I'm sure we've all experienced being in water and as soon as the wind picks up it just makes it even more colder. So think being underneath the water where there is no wind is probably a bit more comfortable for this hippo. And they've got such thick hides, I'm sure it doesn't affect them too much. It's just a comfort thing, maybe. I haven't had too good a look at it, but I would assume that it's a big male hippo. It looks like it. And the best way to tell is just by the size of the muzzle. And it looks like it is pretty big. So I'd imagine that this hippo has set up its territory here and it's just waiting for females to come in. And actually, if you look very closely around its nostrils, if he decides to pick them up again, they've got these very big bristle-like nostril hairs. See his whole body now. There we go. Let's see if we can see his nostril hairs from here. Might just be able to see them. And that's the very top of his mouth. So from there, it just gets wider. And in that mouth are ginormous sets of tusks that he'll use to protect this waterhole if another male decides to try and challenge him. And when they fight, it is quite a sight to behold, because they just throw their weight around, they open those jaws, and they hit each other as hard as they can. I mean, it's not uncommon for one to get completely cut open. They might even fight to the death and kill each other if they need to.
We can see her now. She was up. I just spoke to Peter, one of my really good friends out here, who is always playing tricks on me in the bush. Boys. And he said there's one cub. Definitely one cub. And it's a little bit skittish. I mean, Kuchava really means scared. Although she's a very relaxed female now. And obviously she's left it. She's going hunting. She's going to get food. I can't see her now. She literally had her head up. She was looking. I know she's gone flat again. I see. Yeah, I see Evo Z. I think the Ngala have disappeared, though. Wouldn't it be great if she made a successful kill for this afternoon? I know you're saying it's great to see Kuchava. Well, yes, I mean, we just got here a bit too late, and Kuchava was really far away from Shaduli by the time we got here. Obviously, the situation has changed. But I do think we can move a little bit further forward. I'm just trying to think. If I move Impo, do you think you'll be able to relocate her with your excellent eyes? I'm just trying to mark where she is, because I've now lost her with my eyes. If you zoom out a bit, Impo. Okay, I think I've got it. I think I can see where it is you're looking. Let's try, because there's no point in looking at sticks. We've done many a segment looking at sticks. James Henry used to love his stick segments, that's for sure. But she is there, I promise. But the Ngala have gone, which means she's obviously missed her moment. I thought I could get through here. Come on, I can. Oh, no. I see an Ngala. Okay. I don't know if I can get through here. Yes, I can. I did it. I think I did it. Okay, So as far as I know, she should be around 12 o'clock now. And there's an Ngala at about, there's two, there's a young boy and a female at about 1 o'clock. And that's what she's after. That's why she's staying so flat. And I would never forgive myself if I interrupted a hunt. That's why everyone hangs back. And you can turn on your engine, but you just don't go bombarding in there. And sometimes it's a game of patience. I remember sitting with BK at one of my favourite sightings, and we sat with Tandy for ages. We were about to leave, and all of a sudden she just got up and took down a diker right in front of the car and then hoisted it, whilst it was alive, into the thinnest, narrowest tree. I can't remember what tree it was now. And of course we had no signal. Or the internet went down or something like that. And it was one of the most incredible sightings. The Anyalas are all looking, they're not feeding, they're not entirely relaxed, and it makes me think they could possibly be aware that something is lurking. It's amazing just sitting here, not really having a visual of what's going on, but feeling what's going on. You know that there's a top predator here, and you know that there's prey here, and it's really quite something to know that at any moment something could happen. Thank you. Okay, thank you for your help. Okay. We've got a 0 out of 5 visual, 0.5. I will do, I promise. Okay, we're going to sit tight for just a little bit longer because we came all the way here. And we're going to send you guys over to JP.
Welcome back on Bushwalk. While Lauren is out looking at leopards, we're spending a little bit of time looking for birds. One of the birds that we are looking at the moment is known as a Birchall starling. Under normal weather conditions, where it's bright and sunny, these birds will appear incredibly bright in colour. And one of the reasons why they appear so bright is because of melanin crystals, which refracts and bends light and creates a beautiful iridescent colour. Unfortunately, our bird has flown off. We just want to see if we can actually relocate on him. It's just landed at the back over here. I'm just going to sneak up, and while we're walking towards him, I'll tell you a little bit more about them. And if we do, yeah, there we go. This is right over here. I actually spend quite a lot of time on the ground busy feeding. And also they have an incredibly long leg, so we often can separate them from other passerine birds when we look at their tracks because of the length or stride that they have. There we go, he's back up on a tree right over here. So there's also a few things that we find when we are looking at these starlings, as with a number of different starlings that we have in the area as all parasitized by great spotted cuckoo, which hopefully will be coming back into the area. But they don't only just parasitize the starlings, they'll also go for a number of crow species, which they will select One of the things of great spotted cuckoo, it's one of the largest cuckoo species in South Africa, and unlike many of the other cuckoo species which will evict either the egg or the chick out of a nest, these guys grow up with the chicks in the nest, but they become so big that they actually smother the chicks and push them out by accident. And then also because they're so much larger, they outcompete them because they have, and being stronger, they can bully them when it comes to finding food or when the food gets brought to the nest. There's also a number of very similar looking glossy starlings that we find in this area. The other two species is known as a Cape glossy starling as well as a greater blue-eared starling. Both of these two species are actually slightly smaller in size than the Burchell starling, and they both have yellow eyes. When it comes to separating Cape from the blue-eared starling, we'll notice that there's darker blue ear coverts on the greater blue-eared starling, as well as it's got a slightly darker underbelly compared to the more uniform-coloured Cape's glossy starling. While we're looking for birds, we're going to start slowly making our way down towards one of the dams close by, as that there was a report of buffalo possibly moving into this direction. Maybe we can get lucky in finding them. Well, then there's also a few starlings that we have in this area, which we find slightly north of here, which is known as a Meaves starling, previously known as long-tailed starling. They appear very similar to that of a Burchell starling. However, if you look on the Burchell starling, the tail seems to be much more rounded. The bird appears much more bulky compared to the slender-looking Meaves starling, which has got a thinner and longer tail as well. We also find that starlings are very closely related to oxpeckers. However, one of the things that we do find with oxpeckers is that they've got two toes pointing forward and two toes pointing backward. And as far as I know, they're the only passerine group of birds that have that foot configuration compared to the normal three toes forward and one backward.
Operating for 27 years, Eco Training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. WildEarth has been working closely with Eco Training to promote the safari guide industry and create awareness for its importance. This is why, for 1 month only, we are offering all WildEarth viewers an opportunity to receive a discount on an Eco Training safari guide course. Contact Eco Training today to find out more, and remember to quote Eco Wild Live to receive your discount.
The scrap here collected a dry grass, put it next to the water hole as the hippo walks down during the warm of the day to drink the water. When the hippo arrives, he saw quite a very nice grass, an area not to resist to rest. And when the hippo went down to drink the water, and when he finished the water, he just lied down. And then,
that was the opportunity of the scrappy.
You know what? Today is my day to pay the revenge.
Okay, there's another big male coming in from our left here. Another big male, look at this. This is the one. Now you're going to see sparks fly, guys. Guys, it doesn't get better than this, eh? Yes, unbelievable. Africa, I love you, eh?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
I got into wildlife filmmaking because of a passion for nature and a notion that I could make a difference. Helping others fall in love with nature brings meaning to what I do. It's also a lot of fun. A couple of times per week, we receive some very heartfelt messages from viewers telling us about how WildEarth has made a difference in their life, whether it's helped them through a difficult period or simply helped them to reconnect with nature. I think that's why we do what we do.
We've got a bit of a better visual of her. I mean, it's not amazing, but you can sort of see her. And again, we won't disturb, but the Ngala has not once, the female at least, I've lost sight of the male, not once put his head down. And what that tells you is it's not actually spotted the threat yet. It's not reacting as if it's aware of what's happening, but it's suspicious. It's not allowing itself to sort of put down its head and start feeding and relax and not be looking. It's looking, it's smelling. Naturally, it's very windy. So maybe it's got a little bit of a whiff of a leopard. Not understanding where it is, can't see it. It's also listening. It has not put its head down once, or she has not put her head. Herbie, I think this side maybe. She's here. You see the Ngala? She's after the Ngala. And Kuchava's here. Visual 1 out of 5. Lala. I'm just letting her be know where she is. It's very difficult to see. That's what you're going to do. The distance is too great right now. She needs this Ngala to be occupied and go back to just feeding or turning its back. But the fact that it's not doing that, she's not moving. The distance is too great. It's about 30 meters. If she launched now, the Ngala would just run. And it would be a failed attempt, wasted energy. But this Ngala is just not relaxing. Chewing, but not relaxing. And I really, really hope she's successful and we get to see the little cub, or possibly two. I just know that one was spotted this morning. This afternoon. How great would that be? Many of you think you hope she's successful. Absolutely. I mean, as sad as that is for the Ngala, this is a mother we're looking at here. And Tristan had Sabi on Chitwa. Was it yesterday? Yes. No, maybe the day before. I lose track now of the days here, but it just shows you all these leopardesses that are using this really small property. See, she's not moving. What's up? She wants this. She needs this. And that is literally what she's trying to do. It's a waiting game. She's trying to wait until this Ngala relaxes, forgets that there's a threat, or decides that possibly maybe there's not a threat any longer, so I can go about my daily life. That's what she's waiting on. But the distance is far too great right now. leopards have so much patience. Most animals do, to be honest. I mean, look at hyenas. They just sit and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait some more. Patience is key, really. I mean, we watched Hosanna growing up and making lots of mistakes. Just launching out of the thicket when the distance was too great and actually missing. Not being successful. And the stat is quite an old paper now, but the stat for leopards' successful hunts is 16%. 16% of all hunts or attempted hunts are successful. That's pretty low. I don't know how accurate that stat is now, but for this area, the Kruger, the greater Kruger, they say 16%. So that means all those ambushes, all those stalks, all these moments where you lie in wait are mostly not successful. And that's because it's so tough, especially in winter. Look what Kuchava's dealing with here. If this was summer, I would say she would be much closer by now, because they walk so silently on their feet in that digitated foot structure and camouflage themselves. But she's dealing with a very, very open, barren landscape. And the minute that Ngala really does spot her, it's game over. Okay, we're going to try and stay here a little bit longer. I do know that other vehicles want to come in and see her, and hopefully she'll make a move soon. But for now, over to Eric.
We've left that waterhole, and the red-breasted swallows are our mission at the moment. And we saw where they were flying off, and we were driving up this road in the direction that we saw them fly, and we saw them again going back towards the waterhole. So we're waiting here because this is the last place we saw them going back towards the waterhole to collect mud. And within this area, so I mean, they're collecting mud, they're going to the nesting site, they're constructing that nest, and they're flying back. And it doesn't take them too long to go to and from the waterhole. So we're thinking, especially because they're needing to fly into the wind, that the nest isn't too far away. And I'm reading on Robert's app that their preferred nesting sites, natural nesting sites, are things like old fallen over trees, or the entrance to an aardvark burrow, or an empty termite mound. And unfortunately, in this block that we're looking at, there's lots of termite mounds, there's lots of fallen over trees. There's quite a lot of suitable nesting sites. So it's a bit of a needle in a haystack search. But if we do see them flying across here, we might be able to at least narrow down the area. And then over the next couple of days, we can keep working the spots and keep trying to find if we can find the nest. I've never ever found a red-breasted swallow nest out in the bush. They will sometimes nest on walls of lodges, and we do sometimes see them there, but by the sounds of things, they tend to be, and they prefer to nest quite low down on the ground. Just again from Roberts, about the majority of them are built under a meter off the ground, sometimes even lower than ground level. So lodges aren't necessarily the best environment for them. A few minutes ago, we saw at least one of them flying back to the dam to collect mud. It was quite fascinating, because they went down. One went down first, the other one was circling, almost like keeping watch. The one on the ground collected mud, a big mouthful full. It took off, and then it was circling. And as it was circling, the other one came down, and the one that had mud in its mouth already was just waiting for its partner. And then as soon as that other one took off, they joined up, and in formation they flew together in this direction. So hold thumbs, you never know, maybe we get to find it.
Welcome back on Bushwalk. We're looking at an incredibly small grasshopper at the moment on the edge of this little twig. I'm not quite sure which species it is. What we notice with these little guys, they've most likely hatched very shortly after it started raining, and now they're starting to move around looking for food. And at this stage they cannot fly yet, so they actually have to crawl up to the top of these branches in the search of vegetation to feed on. Quite often when we do have large numbers of grasshoppers, we tend to see that they will denude all the leaves off that little tree. And at the same time, they're creating a large amount of waste product, which is referred to as frass. And that frass or waste product that they've created now gets washed back into the soil and becomes accessible as nutrients and minerals to that plant, assisting with the growth spur. Again, we also find that quite often that there's a number of different brightly colored grasshoppers that we have in this area. Some of them might be red and black in color, while some of them are combinations of green, yellow, combinations of color. And these species tend to be quite slow moving and incredibly toxic. And some of them can also release some forms of toxins when they are harassed by predators. And very quickly those predators will learn through association that these aren't very palatable. One of my favorite of all species of grasshoppers in South Africa is that of the brown locust, which often forms incredibly large groups, and sometimes it appears like a black cloud on the horizon which is moving towards you. These species too have a very important role in recycling nutrients and minerals in incredibly arid environments, where under normal conditions in environments such as the savanna biome where we are now, as well as in grassland, fire would actually be the responsible thing for recycling that nutrients back into the system. At the same time, they also provide an important source of food for a number of birds of prey and other species of animal that might feed on them.
Just as we went off air, we saw at least one of the swallows flying, and it looked like it was coming from a bit further away than we thought. And now we're sitting at a slightly different road, and what we're doing is just waiting to see if they'll fly over us. And yeah, you never know. We were saying, like, the more we drive in this area, the more suitable nesting sites there seems to be. So, I mean, it looks like it might not be possible, but I'd really like to try. I mean, like I said, I've never ever found one before, and this is a perfect example, and a perfect opportunity to maybe try and find one. So we're looking, every bird that flies over us now is giving us a second look, but we haven't quite seen. So they'll take some time collecting the mud, and then they're flying into the wind now, so it will take them a bit longer to get back into the area. Okay, so whilst we're waiting for these swallows to fly over us, let's go and see what that leopard's up to.
She's up. I mean, the visual's gone from 0.25 to about at least 1. Still not amazing, but I refuse to move the car. The Nyalas are relaxed. That's what's happened. The Nyalas are moving. They've all turned their, from what I can see, they've all turned their backs. A female, the male, there's another female, and I think there's a youngster from what I can see through the thicket. That's why she's got up. It's very hard to see through the trees, but from what I can gather, they're all on the move, and they're all walking away from her, which means she may now have the opportunity to sneak up on them because, she goes. She now knows she can walk closer. Yep, they're all walking away. That's what happens. They obviously realize, I thought I smelled a leopard, but maybe it's not. Or I thought I heard something, but all is good now. They're relaxed. It's not the case that they've necessarily forgotten. They just now assume there's no imminent threat, and there is. Oh, there's 2 males. I see 2 male Ngalas now. Oh, look at this. Oh, girl, got a little cubby to feed. Well done, Impo. You're doing a really good job considering. Oh, she's running. Perfect time in FC. This has all worked out really well. Herbie's here as well, so between the 2 vehicles, we can probably keep an eye on her. She's now at the mound. She's covered a lot of distance quickly and silently. But remember, it's not just the sight of her that the Ngalas are looking for. They're listening to they're connected to the bush. So they're also, yes, using their senses, smell, hearing, and eyesight. But they're also listening for other signs, like the birds. Are the birds signaling something is wrong? Are other ground mammals running away into their burrows? Is there an alarm call in some other form? They're a lot more connected to the bush than we are. So it's not just their own senses that they're feeling. They're also in tune to what the bush is telling them. Okay, Herbie's making a move. I'm going to follow his tracks and see if we can maybe just keep up with her a little bit. You ready, Impo? And that was what was the most amazing thing for me out here, because underwater is very different. Your senses are blocked. You have to rely on different senses. Whereas here, yes, you have to smell, listen, and look, but you also have to feel, like, what is happening? Why is that bird upset? Why are the francolins falling? Why are all the impala running? And that takes time to learn out here. Picking up on all the signs that there's a predator, something's happening. I don't have any visual, but I am following Herbie now. I also don't see the Ngalas. I don't even see her. Ah, there she is. 9 o'clock in pool. But I don't see the end. Oh, I do. They're right in front of me. Sorry. There's a youngster there as well. I've now got 4 females, a male, and a tiny little youngster in front of me. Kachav's girl, they're looking. They're all looking. Very suspicious now. arms hurt really bad. Just adjust it up a little bit. I didn't catch that name, but you're asking, will she go for the male or the female? She'll go for whoever she can get. The calf might be the easiest one in this scenario, which sounds terrible. She'll go for whoever she can get. The one that is singled out, the one that runs in the wrong direction, the slowest. It's windy now, which is going to make them nervous, and it's going to work, I guess, a little bit in her favour. I think there's a little bit of a similarity to her reeps. Oh, there's two youngsters. I now see two youngsters. Everyone else is now eating, which means they've relaxed. There's just one female. Obviously, imposed keeping you very much tuned in on Kotrava, so I'm just updating you on what's happening here. One female in Yala is not convinced, not relaxed. Everyone else is now eating. And that's why when you go to Chitwa Open or Chitwa Airstrip, you'll see a group of Inyalas, and they're always there. Always hanging out in the same spot, because it's so open that they know nothing can sneak up on them there. I don't see her. Many of you seen this is very intense, yes. Always. The distance is so far too great. She's not going to launch out right now. And they're looking, they're not sure. But it's definitely very intense. And we know the story. We know she's just left the club. We know she's now headed west, further into Chitwa, which is better for us. And we know she's hungry, and we know she's hunting. She was in front of Cheetah Plains Lodge a few days ago with it closed. So it's really time to hunt again, feed those hungry tummies. And it's just wonderful that she's came west into Chitwa. Because if she had went east, that's just not possible for us. Two hungry leopards in one drive, not bad. And still that one female is just looking, the same female from before. She knows something's wrong. She's the only one that knows something's not right. What amazes me is a leopard's understanding its own cognitive ability, that it can blend in, that it can hide, that it shouldn't move a muscle. And obviously this is a learned it's a process, but It just amazes me. She knows she just needs to position behind a tree trunk and she's invisible. She needs to go flat in the grass and she's invisible. And it just amazes me how they understand that they need to hide. They need to blend in. But she's not going to move as long as this female's staring at her. So I don't think anything's going to happen immediately, but she's only going to move when all of these Nyalas relax again. Okay, we're going to sit here just a tad longer. See what plays out. Brought us down a little bit. I don't know what's happened to my comms, but the quality has gone very bad all of a sudden. You're still with us. And naturally, the visual's now not great. But I'll get on that radio, see if anyone wants to come into the sighting. And hopefully soon, Miss Kujawa is going to make her move.
The WildEarth channel now runs for 24 hours a day and is filled with exciting wildlife experiences for the whole family. In addition to our twice daily live safaris from Africa, we launched Sea Forest. Free divers explore the great African kelp forest under the water in Cape Town, while naturalists on the surface explain what we are seeing in real time. Our Escape to Nature series features exceptional wildlife footage throughout the day, and here you can immerse yourself in the sights and sounds of nature. And finally, we are launching a brand new penguin experience later this month, where you can follow the lives of a group of African penguins daily and in real time. If you want to join in on these experiences, then head over to wildearth.tv/channel to see where you can watch. Escape to nature with WildEarth.
It's day one of the annual South African Guide of the Year competition, and our first foot into this competition this morning is all about tracks and signs.
We're going to call you in one at a time. Just look at it, the information will be there.
Our 5 guides have been tasked by the judges at figuring out who is what is who, and where they go in the bush.
It's either Franklin or guinea fowl, but because of the volume of other deposits in the area, we went with guinea fowl.
Detailing the surrounding that you need to look out for tracks. The details is very important.
I've seen something I've never seen here before. Look at these cubs. One is crossing the river, it's being washed away unfortunately, but I'm sure the mother is going to save her. Look at that! How beautiful, look at that! One crossing, 2 to go. How cool is this?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
She's gone flat-ish. I didn't even know if you guys can see her, but she, well done, Paul. Oh, are you bored now, girl? And all the Nyalas have relaxed except that one, and that's a problem. That one's a big problem for Kuchava, not for us. But for her, that's why it's flat, patience, wait it out. She's going to follow them for quite some time, and we're quite close to the famous quarry on Chitwa now. I don't quite know how I'm going to get out of this block, but that's where we are. And it's so nice to see her all the same, and I'm really hoping I can get to meet this cub. She's not even looking at them. She knows it's like gonna take time. She's playing it cool cat. And I don't know off the top of my head the age of the cub. Maybe you guys can help me, but I know that it was born during my last stint, or it was found during my last stint. So it's definitely over 6 weeks old. Definitely over that mark. I think it could even be possibly over 8. So it's moving with mum now, and she's left it. She's left it in a block. So it's in the thicket. If you think where she's nestled right now, it'll be in somewhere like that. It won't be in a dense site anymore. And mum will either drag carcass backwards or stash the carcass and then call the cub. So if she is successful this morning, it could be really, really wonderful news. James Richard, I'm sure you'll know the age of the cub. But I remember when I got found, Peter, of course, tried to make me jealous by sending me lots of photos. Name, I'm afraid, but yes, it's been a beautiful, beautiful morning with Shadulu, Sutu, and now Kuchavs. I think Kuchava's the most beautiful name. If I ever get another dog, it will be called Kuchava. Uh-oh. Run out of time on this job. Nothing's going to happen. That one female in Ngala is just not letting up. She's standing like a statue, staring in Kuchava's direction. She's obviously being the lookout, but very, very, very aware that something, I wonder what sense it is that's triggering her awareness. I'd love to know. Did she spot movement? Did she hear a rustle? Can she smell leopard? Who knows? Did she hear an alarm call of a bird and know something's up? What is it that's triggering her heightened awareness? She could be the mother of that youngster as well, and she just knows that she's also got to stand her ground, protect her young. Every mother in the animal kingdom would do whatever they can to the best of their ability, no matter what organism you are, to protect your offspring, even if that means leaving them, if that makes sense. If leaving your eggs under a leaf like a butterfly or a moth is the best way for your offspring to survive, then that's what they'll do. But I will absolutely follow up on this afternoon, 100%. And now that the drive at Djuma and Pridelands has come to an end, Just a reminder to you all, you can now tune in to Penguin Beach. But at least from the Djuma teams, I can say thank you everyone for jumping on board. All your comments, questions, engagements and laughs, please do join us this afternoon. Until then, have a great day.